Hey everyone, Michael here with Tux Digital and the Destination Linux Network. And you may or may not be aware, but I'm one of the hosts of a podcast called Destination Linux, and it is a fantastic show. This past episode, we had a lot of really cool and interesting discussions, and one of those is related to a weird observation that we made about how Windows users don't seem to blame Windows for any of the terrible stuff that it does. We all know that it does terrible stuff, and they know it does terrible stuff, so it's pretty weird. But whereas in contrast, if those people find even the slightest annoyance, they will yell about how bad Linux is. This is a topic that I have experienced on many occasions where people just seem to give Windows a pass, even though they know it's not good at all. They basically blame the application rather than blaming Windows, and no matter what, they blame Linux when they have that experience. So I thought this was a pretty interesting topic from the podcast, and I thought you might be interested to hear a story I gave on the show about a time where it happened to me because it happened in such a weird way with the silliest of statements. So here's a clip from that episode 179 of Destination Linux.
Cue music, fancy scene graphics.
And we retransition back into the show.
The other issue I see a lot happening in the Windows world is, for instance, most of the computers in the place I work are Windows. There are so many times throughout the week that they have programs that crash. They can't, their system's locked out. It's rebooting. They can't get certain programs to work, but nobody blames Windows. But when you're in Linux,
Yeah.
right? If something's buggy and you have a problem, like pulse audio is not working correctly, or I had to go into this section to add a no mode set to be able to get my video card to boot. It's like, oh my gosh, Linux is so ridiculous. It's so terrible. It's so hard.
So what battles you want to solve, man? I've been saying that
because it blamed, the instant idea is that we blame Linux for everything. It couldn't be the hardware you chose. It couldn't be anything else. It's Linux and terrible coding. But with Windows, it's just, it deletes your data with updates. They have millions of people who've signed up for the Insider program that tell them there's a bug and they ignore it. Well, it's Windows. It's fine. We just kind of give a lot of a pass to this. And I hope it's not that. I think there are certain use cases in professional environments, and we've heard from those people in the past where, it makes sense to have WSL around for them, makes their development, their work requires them to use Windows machines, and now they can have WSL on there. There are reasons for it. But when I see regular users just now I can play all my games in Windows and I've got Linux and WSL, it's just kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, that stuff is definitely annoying when you see people saying that because, one, they are just they're acting like having the Windows side is a good thing. And it's not a good thing because of all these problems. And you're totally right about this. I had a conversation with someone where I switched them to Linux, and the reason I switched them is because they were having issues with their laptop, and their laptop was super ancient, and it was even literally falling apart. The hinges was kind of falling apart on it, and it was just very bad situation. And they were like, I don't have the money to upgrade my system. Can you help me with that? I was like, well, I can help you, yes, but just keep in mind your laptop is very, very old and literally falling apart. So while I'm doing this, it will make it easier to use, and you will be able to do the things you need to do. Because I did make sure that I had the possibility of doing everything that they wanted, and I gave it to them. And then for 2 or 3 years, they were just using it with no problems, and they were like, "Yeah, this is great. It's kind of slow, but it's great." And I was like, "Yes, it's slow because your hardware is ancient." And then the next 6 months later or something, they sent me a message saying, "Hey, I got a new laptop," and I was like, okay, cool. And they're like, "You just won't believe how much faster Windows is than Linux." I was like, what? Are you seriously telling me that your brand new laptop that you replaced a 10-year-old laptop that's falling apart is better, and then therefore better than Linux? And the funniest part about that, as soon as I said that to them, they're like, "Yeah, you're right. That's a ridiculous thing for me to say."
But without that conversation, that's what they would have gone out there and spread and told everybody that, I tried Linux and it was slow and it was crappy. And then I got a brand new Windows machine and it was fantastic. And most people aren't technically minded like us, and they would nod their heads and go, "You're right." Every time I go into Best Buy and I pick up one of those brand new Windows machines, it's so fast as soon as they get a new version out there, except for the fact it erases my data every once in a while, it's completely fine.
Yeah, exactly. I hope you found this clip interesting, and if you have any experiences like mine, then please leave a comment below, or better yet, join the DLN forum at the link in the description. And if you did find this clip interesting and want more like it, there is plenty to check out, because if you go to destinationlinux.org, that's where you can subscribe to the podcast via MP3s or subscribe to the podcast via the YouTube channel for a full video version of the show. Every week I make the videos even more and more fancy with more OBS scenes, and they give me a hard time for that. I know I might be a little bit biased, but I think the show is one of the best Linux podcasts around, so I think you will totally enjoy it. Thanks for watching this clip, and again, let me know if you have any stories like the one I gave. You can leave them in the comments below or on the DLN forum like I said. And I hope you all have a great day, and I'm still working on the outro for these types of videos. I'm really good at the outro for This Week in Linux, but I don't do these enough to have an actual consistent outro, but I'm working on it. So I'll see you in the next Tux Digital video.